It's nearly game time, folks. Monday Night Football is coming at you. We're going to get you ready for what they can expect, what they should expect, what their plan should be, and where they're going from here. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, your host at RGR Football, and welcome to this show that I think we all need. Thanks for making us your first listen today. Chris Clark, the smoothing factor in my lunacy.
Yeah, and the one that always is checking your spelling. You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that, editor at large.
Yeah, so lots to talk about in today's episode. Lot that we don't want to probably touch on, just because we don't know how it's going to affect this game. But quite an interesting couple of days in Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is there's turmoil. There's stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I don't know what the cause is. I don't know who's fed up with what. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to the same concept. You have to go through this crap, and you have to be able to get past it in order to be a championship team. And no matter what we've seen on this field, every player that's been here before, let the rookie class out of this one in particular, but everyone who's been on this roster before knows what it's like to be on a championship level roster. Yep. It's still there. They got to get back to it.
Yep. No, they definitely do. And I think that the biggest thing that they got to remember is that, yes, they won the championship, 2 years ago. Yes, they played in the Super Bowl last year, but unfortunately the NFL is a not for long league. And what have you done for me lately is always going to be the case. And that really goes back to, fans almost as much as it does, teams and coaches and GMs. So, I mean, it's an unfortunate part of the business, but it's a reality too.
It really is. Keeping that in mind, it has to come from within, in my opinion. Like we can talk all about what we want out here. We've seen some players have flare-ups with some of the actual beat reporters, the actual media. They're in the building with them, and maybe that's a close contact thing that you get a little frustration out. But at the end of the day, whether they say it or we say something or we're critical of them, have to find themselves the way to get there. It can't be based because you're trying to prove someone wrong, something like that. It's got to come from within in order to get it done.
It definitely does, and you have to figure out what you're going to do moving forward. You have to figure out how you're going to improve as a team, and you have to figure out how to right the ship. I was talking about this actually with my family on Saturday, and you start looking at it. They've played 7 games. They still have 10 games left. Mm-hmm. There's still plenty of time to turn this around. There's still plenty of time to get to 13-4 if you really think that you have the team to do it. And I think this team could get on a run. 13-4 is probably unrealistic, but it's a possibility. And that would definitely get them in the playoffs. Might not get them the first seed, but it definitely get them in the playoffs.
Right. And that's really what it comes down to is everything is within the realm of possibility. They could not win another ballgame this year.
Yep.
Or they could run the entire table.
Yeah.
We just don't know. But that's how strange this whole thing is. And maybe there isn't a better opponent right now to try to get right against than these New York Giants, because they just had a get right game. When they beat Carolina last week, had some good performances there. Like, they're not just like, the team that you expect to pick first in the draft. It's not just beating up on the weakest team in the league. Like this, there's an aspect of competition here that's legit still.
Yeah, there's an aspect of competition that's legit, but you have to be careful because there's definitely going to be looking forward to the game on Sunday night next week. And you can't do that. You have to go and you have to win this game. Every single game from here on out is almost a must-win game, and with the schedule they have remaining, that would put them in a very impressive place, because if they won out, they would have won out against the hardest schedule left in the NFL.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially given how good the quality has been of the opponents they faced to this point.
Yep.
To still have that, it's definitely a challenge, but as we start to look at these Giants, and we'll get into the matchups in particular here in a second, folks, just where do you feel like the most important 2 guys are right now in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes getting ready to try to grab this season by the throat right now with this game?
Honestly, I know people hate me saying that word, but I look at it and I say that if Patrick Mahomes doesn't get right in his head that he can't try to make a superstar play every single play, then it's not going to matter what this team does. The defense can play better, and it's not going to matter because the offense is still going to struggle, and Mahomes is still going to be turning over the ball because that's really what has caused a lot of their issues so far this year. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the defense isn't to blame. It's not at all what I'm saying. But the defense could be overcome if the offense was doing enough of its job and scoring enough points in the past couple of games where they haven't.
I think that's what it comes down to as well. As long as maybe you don't
Or
have to
turning the
be like,
ball over. Sorry.
well, yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. You don't have to be the output that you were a couple seasons ago. You just
Right.
need to not put yourself in a hole by giving the ball away, especially like what we've seen, other than last week, where they move the ball really well and then they give it back. So you're still racking up all this yards. You're still being really efficient in your offensive play call, but you're not getting the results that you're used to getting. That's troublesome when you got to go back and watch the film. And if I have to watch the film, I probably have to put it on my tablet and make sure I can scroll around and see everything that I need to see. And then I got to go watch movies on the TV, and then I got to watch stuff on my phone. Like, you can put it all together and make your life simpler, less confused, and less cluttered if you go check out DirecTV Stream. It's their new service where they combine everything from entertainment, sports, and all your movie watching, put it all together on demand in one spot with one remote that you don't have to go hunting for every 5 seconds. And it's called DirecTV Stream. It means no more juggling remotes, no more looking for extra devices. You don't have to buy another one ever again. And the best part is there's no annual contract. You sign up for it and you go. That's it. Get rid of the clutter, get rid of the confusion, and get all of your TV together in one place on DirecTV Stream. You can find more about that at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. A compatible device is required. It is designed to be required, actually. And content varies by the package.
And that was compatible, just in case you were wondering. Which you start looking at the matchups and how you're going to go in this game, and I think that it's a lot of the questions that Kansas City has, you could probably answer if they get good matchups in this game. And it does look like the Giants should be without a couple of big players. Kenny Galladay doesn't look like he's going to play. Saquon Barkley doesn't look like he's going to play. So that should really help this Chiefs unit, and their offensive line isn't great. So if they could start to get pressure as a defensive unit, that would help as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think the biggest thing for me is Saquon, because it allows this defensive group needs a win that needs to play better, to play the way they're designed. Usually they're designed to play with a lead where they don't have to face the run that much. But when you don't have your ace back, that's nearly as good in terms of not getting behind the eight ball, of getting run on, getting wore out, getting to the point where when you play so many snaps, you can't even perform your defense as it's designed. That's going to be, I think, key number one is to get ahead, stop the run so that you're not exposed all day long and you can play your pass sets the way you want to.
Yeah, and if you can do that, that obviously is going to help your offense as well because the defense is going to give you the ball back in hopefully close to plus territory, if not plus territory, if they can stop the opposing offense, from getting a couple of first downs. What really is going to be interesting for me to watch, and one of the matchups I'm looking forward to the most, and it's really not because I think it's going to be an important matchup of the game near as much as it is. I just want to see how they perform, and more specifically, how he performs. I want to see what Nick Bolton does in his second week starting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw what he did against Tennessee, and I thought he looked fantastic against Tennessee. And if he has another game like that, there's no way I don't think that this coaching staff can sell the entire rest of the team that Bolton shouldn't be the starter at middle linebacker.
Yeah. Well, and it all comes down to this in my mind. For Spagnuolo and Matt House, don't get cute. Keep it simple. What we saw from Nick Bolton was him being his ultimate self by just being a middle linebacker between the tackles and not having the responsibility to be all over the field, to play backward in coverage, to let him do what he does best. If they can maintain that and fight the urge to make him do these crazy drops or take backs out of the backfield, they're likely to see Devontae Booker, who we've seen a bit, but Nick hasn't yet, right? But a back that we know can hurt you if you let him get on a roll, but if you stymie him early, you're going to be in good shape. I think they have to let him play downhill, maybe even blitz him off the get-go to get Nick Bolton going and really solidify that middle tier, and that will help the rest of the ball game as well.
Yeah, no, and if you get Nick Bolton going, you're going to get Willie Gay going most likely as well because you're going to put Willie Gay in the situations that he's going to flourish the most. And honestly, if they can, there I go again, if they can get Bolton to do what he does best, they should be able to get most of the players on the defense to do what they do best. And that's really what is going to get the most out of this defense, is to put your players in the position to do what they do the best that they can and succeed that way. And I think this unit has the talent if they can be put in the best position. The problem is it looks like the defense has been too complicated, and they're putting guys in position to do things that they're not used to doing and they're not good at doing.
Yeah. For me, the other big matchup is on the other side, and it plays into what we talked about in the first segment here about controlling the ball and not giving it up. Don't turn it over, and you're
Yep.
going to be okay 99% of the time. And with this team, probably more so. But for me, it comes down to we saw the change to Remmers at right tackle. Don't know if that's going to stick. We could get surprised with Niang going back in there. We were surprised when Remmers was out there, so I'm not going to assume anything this particular week.
Well, and Remmers is hurt too, so that could play into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he was limited, but not out of practice this week, right?
Right, and he was questionable on the final injury report. I just want to point that out because it is possible they have Niang start because Remmers might not be available.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that plays better for them because of the fact that they're going to face Azeez Ojulari and Lorenzo Carter, two guys that have enough speed rush to, I think, get the advantage over Remmers, whereas I think Niang has a better kick and has the ability to get deeper better. But that's going to be a matchup to watch. That is one of the things you have to keep an eye on, because as long as you can control the pinch from the outside rushers that we've seen collapse the pocket, it's been, I think, one thing that Patrick's been a little reluctant to step up into the pocket there.
Mm-hmm.
But the interior three, outside of Trey having a rough week last week, I think has been enough that you can expect him and you can focus on him stepping up in there, as long as the tackles are getting beat the socks off of them by the speed rush around the edge.
Yeah, and the big thing there is Patrick has to be willing to step up, one, but two, Andy Reid has to be willing to put his team in the best spot, and he hasn't done that to an extent on offense either. You start looking at what he's asking Orlando Brown to do, and maybe it's a combination of Andy calling deep pass drops and Patrick going too far on his pass drops, but you cannot go to 11-step drop. I know I've said this multiple times this week, but you can't put your tackles in that position, specifically Orlando Brown, unless you're going to give him somebody to chip the guy coming off the edge. Every single play, you're going to do a deep drop like that. And in a lot of ways, I don't think that would be a bad idea. Get Blake Bell, put him next to Orlando Brown, have him chip the guy, and then let Orlando do what Orlando does. He'll be in a better position, and you can still go deep downfield, take Bell out of the route, at least to begin with, but he can be released near the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't hurt you near as bad as putting Orlando Brown on an island and expecting him to get a pass rusher that's going 11 yards deep and keeping him off Mahomes.
Well, I'll go you one farther. Let Noah Gray do that, because I think he's more nimble in that 10 and under range. I think he can get underneath the linebackers and be that relief, but he can also exploit some things down the middle because he's more athletic than Blake Bell is, and he doesn't have to do much. Just lower a shoulder into
as long as he can get as long as he can get the block, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it's time for that wrinkle, because I think at this point you have to find whatever you have to find. And if you're Andy Reid, you can't continue to be stubborn and leave Orlando on an island and leave the other tackle, whoever it is, on an island. You have to be able to give him some help, especially once you get a feel for the game. Maybe in the first 15, you try to do what you want to do and leave them on their own. But if it starts to collapse the pockets, you got to take care of that fast. You cannot wait for it to get worked out or wait for Patrick to make a big play. There's another couple of things I think we need to get to. We'll talk about exactly what to do here in the next group.
And I do think that it's very key that they get Patrick going early and they get him in a rhythm. And I do think that one of the big things that you look at going into this game is you are in a situation where if Mahomes gets going early, I think it's going to benefit this team going forward as an offense in both this game and going in further games going forward. But I think the bigger key is you have a QB that can hit a throw anywhere on the field, and you can run a combination of routes anywhere on the field. It doesn't matter where the QB is or how you have him roll out. If you have him roll out or if he's in the pocket, he can hit the throws. You just have to put him in the best position to do it, and you have to let the offensive line do what they do best, and that means not having Orlando Brown out on an island. When we start talking about this game and what is going to be necessary for the Chiefs to win, though, I think the biggest question is who's going to be the hungriest? Is it going to be the Chiefs or is it going to be the Giants? Because that is who I think is going to win the game. The Chiefs should win this game, but are they going to be hungrier than the Giants? If they're the hungriest team, they will win this game. And speaking of being hungry, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. If you've not tried them, you really need to give them a chance. They are absolutely fantastic. They say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one at all. It tastes like a candy bar. You have to try one of these amazing bars for yourself to believe it. Many protein bars are chalky or waxy or just plain hard to choke down. A Built Bar is soft, covered in 100% real chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of an experience, one that you'll enjoy. In fact, you'd swear you're eating a candy bar, and it really is like a candy bar. Built Bars are low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, and high in protein, so all the healthy benefits on top of being just purely delicious. Another great thing about Built Bar, there are so many mouthwatering flavors, including coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, and cherry barcia. This month, Built Bar is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days, so check their website often. You don't want to miss out. Go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com.
That 15 will save you a little bit of cash that you might want to put on a ball game here, maybe try to get right on this season. After I know the bets that you guys have been laying on the Chiefs to this point, it is easier to get this kind of thing done on the new betonline.ag redesigned web interface that's got all the sports, even the ones that don't matter. And it remains the number one spot for just football as it should be, and maybe a little bit of NCAA basketball when it comes around to that. We'll get there later in the year. Head over to the new one, check it out, and if you get signed up today, you can get a 50% welcome bonus by using our code. That's locked on when you sign up. Basketball, football, all the other things, it's all in one place. You can even do Vegas-style gaming, and it takes advantage of all the offers for the 2021 season. It's all in one spot over at betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to get all of your money into your favorite sports action. That's betonline.ag, where the action begins. Now, the action has to start in a good way, right? First and foremost, when you're facing a quarterback in Daniel Jones, you look back at the last few contests for him. It is, I think, very straightforward in terms of what your goal needs to be. You need to be solid against the run, but he has performed the worst when he is blitzed. So this plays again into what Spags wants to do in sending blitzers. I think if they get after that early and stymie that and let the offense get out, hopefully to a lead, I think that will help the entire ballgame.
Yeah, and if they can get out to a lead, that would be very helpful. I don't think Kansas City changes things. I think that if they lose the toss, they're going to defer. So you'll give the Giants the ball. The thing with Kansas City in the past couple of years, and this has been the case, it seems like every single game. I'm sure there's been one or two games, but just about every single game, it seems like the defense allows a touchdown or a field goal or something the first drive or two, and you just come to expect that, and then they can usually settle in and they can slow the team down. If they could actually get a stop on this Giants team, if they don't start with the ball, then they're going to be in a better position because you can get ahead on this Giants team. Maybe you can go up 2 scores. The Giants don't have the firepower or the QB to lead them from a multi-score deficit to come back and win against this team.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's give yourself the best opportunity. Pretend you're not a two-time Super Bowl participant the last 2 years, right? Go back to when you were a middling team trying to make that progress. Give yourself the best chance in every opportunity. Don't go out on limbs. And I think that takes care of itself. That includes how you go about the game, and that falls on Andy Reid. And the other key for me is that I think the RPO has to be pulled out of the game plan some. Because I think at the end of the day, when you have the RPOs on, it allows Patrick to make decisions. It allows Patrick to throw balls that he doesn't need to. I think you have to go a little bit more old school and you have to call more runs, not with the option to pass, but our designated runs so that he protects himself and doesn't override what maybe is there trying to press again. I also think the other thing that Andy Reid has to do is call very specific route combinations that hit at the 5-step point. Call it, get it out, make it so that it's not an option unless he's flushed, so that Patrick understands the timing. I think timing is the key for everything this week on the offensive side.
And I will add to that, and I will say that I think another big key, especially if you're going against speed rushers, is to use that speed against them and call some screens. Andy Reid has gotten away from having a screen game that people feared on a weekly basis. And I think if they could add that back, you have a back in Jerick McKinnon, who I think could do great things if you get him out in space by himself. And I'm not saying anything against Darrell Williams. I think Darrell Williams can do fine himself on the screen game. but use the screen game, use that speed against the defensive line from the Giants, and I think that's going to help. It's going to be a very big key to see how the interior pressure goes this week with with the Giants defensive line, because I do think they have somebody in the middle that's going to be a big problem for the Chiefs. Though Creed Humphrey's done very well, Trey Smith has done very well, and as has Joe Tooney. So I think that the Chiefs are going to be in a good situation there. When I look at this game, though, I think you start looking at what Kansas City can do to win this game. If they go out and they produce offensively, I don't think the Giants stand a chance. But if they go out and they produce one or two turnovers on the defensive side, the Giants really don't stand a chance unless the Chiefs turn it over 5 times. So to me, that's the big key. Get your defense involved. Get a turnover or two. Daniel Jones is an okay QB, but he's not top of the league in my mind, at least not right now in his career. And he is going to be prone to turning the ball over. Use that to your advantage. Take the ball away and put your offense in a good position to score.
And that brings me to my primetime matchup, and it is Daniel Jones against a guy that I think after a week of turmoil needs to get back on the right track and needs to produce on the field to hush his critics, but also to dig himself out of a hole that he put himself in. Tyrann Mathieu has to win that matchup, take the ball away from Daniel Jones, and I think that might hinge on what this game outcome is.
Definitely could. He has admitted himself that he's been struggling this year and he's not producing the way he wants to. He said he wants to stay in Kansas City long term. He wants to be here. This could go a long way if he has a statement game.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be key. So let's get down to it. What do you think happens?
Man, I want to say Kansas City wins this one going away, but the way they've been playing, I just can't. I think that both teams could put up 30 points. And I know that sounds really weird saying that about the Giants with the lack of weapons that they have. But with the way the Chiefs defense has played so far this season, in the first half especially, who knows how many points that they're going to allow. I still think Kansas City finds a way to get it done. I'm going to go 31-24. But I do think that it's possible that maybe it's a little bit more high scoring or maybe it's lower scoring. Just really depends on if they're able to keep a hold of the ball.
I think you're a little optimistic on the points myself. I think both these teams are going to struggle a little bit more than that, if I'm right. But at the end of the day, it's got to be, can the defense do what it has to do? Given all the keys and aspects of this game we've talked about, at the end of the day, in the NFL, if you hold your opponent under, you have a good chance to win. Just the way that the game goes today. So I think that's what it comes down to. So I am going to take the Chiefs. I don't think it's going to be super pretty, but I do think they win 20-28 over the New York Giants and get themselves back on a track to try and recover this season. I won't suggest that they're going to go undefeated the rest of the way. That's out there for me right now. But let's take 1-0 starting today, and I think that will get it done. Let us know what you think. Leave your predictions on the YouTube video, as well as like, sub, and hit that bell so that you know what comes next when we put out a new video. If you would do the same thing in the iTunes reviews, I'd love to hear what you guys think this outcome is going to be for all the audio listeners. We appreciate all the feedback, and it helps us tune the show, come up with a couple of other ideas, and give you guys what you're looking for. Thank you for listening to us, not just today, not just this season, but ever since the beginning. We're going to keep rolling with it no matter what the Chiefs are doing record-wise. We appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you post-game after Monday Night Football.